When we think of legendary horror movie monsters, we think of apex predators. We think of like a 25-foot great white shark tearing through the ocean. We think of a xenomorph stalking the metallic corridors of a spaceship. We think of Michael Myers speed walking all his way through Haddonfield. We expect our monsters to be fast, imposing, and physically dominant. But what if the monster, was a garden pest?
Big, they're gigantic.
Okay, stay with me. What if this unstoppable killing machine was basically a homeless snail? Welcome back to the vault. Today we are diving into the murky, the toxic slime-coated sewers of 1988's Slugs.
Slugs. It may be the most shocking movie you will ever see.
This movie takes a punchline of a premise and drenches it in buckets of practical, sticky, glorious though, 1980s gore. Now you might be thinking, how can a slug be scary?
Now, I'm not an expert, but...
That's right, you're not an expert.
I could defeat an army of them just with a brisk walking pace and, a shaker of some salt. And you would be right, but Slugs doesn't care about your logic. Slugs cares about melting faces.
My God.
And blowing up neighborhoods. So grab your salt shakers, check your lettuce, and let's talk about one of the most nasty creature features of the late 80s.
Slugs.
It's an adaptation of a 1982 pulp horror novel by Sean Hudson, a man who clearly looked at his garden one morning and just chose violence. The story takes place in the sleepy, idyllic American town of Ashton. Like all great 80s horror towns, Ashton has a dark secret. Of course it does, of course.
That section of town has been contaminated by a mutated form of slug.
A toxic waste dump leaking noxious neon chemicals straight into the local sewer. This radioactive garbage juice has a very specific side effect. Instead of giving us the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which would be frickin' awesome, it mutates the local black slug population into aggressive, carnivorous, flesh-eating meat tubes with teeth.
Damn thing bit me.
Enter our hero, local health inspector Mike Brady. Yes, his name is actually Mike Brady. No, he does not have 3 boys of his own living under one roof. He is, however, the only man in Ashton who realizes the town is being eaten alive from the ground up.
We have slugs in our water.
In classic Jaws fashion, nobody believes him.
Don't patronize me, I'm not insane.
The sheriff treats Mike like he's been sniffing the toxic waste fumes, and the mayor, refuses to shut off the town's water supply because of the economy, or whatever excuse politicians use when people are actively dissolving into meat puddles. Like, is that not enough of a reason?
Bullshit. This man's nuts.
Anyways, left entirely to his own devices, Mike teams up with his buddy Don, a sanitation worker who has clearly had enough of this town's literal crap, and a high school science teacher who speaks with a bizarrely dubbed British accent. It's very, very bizarre.
Oh God. There's no end to this thing.
As the slugs multiply, and they start invading homes and sinks and garden gloves, the body count skyrockets in increasingly absurd ways. People aren't just like getting nibbled. Okay, they are being devoured whole from the outside and from the inside, reduced to bloody skeletons in their own living rooms. Eventually, Mike and his ragtag team of municipal employees decide that there's only one logical way to deal with a mutant pest.
Blowtorch. You're crazy. These sewage gases could be explosive.
Pump a highly volatile lithium compound into the sewers and light it, turning the entire subterranean level of the town into a glorious, fiery hellscape. Of course, that's the only way to go about this. Goddamn slugs. And it works. Mostly. Alright, let's break down this opening scene, because this movie wastes absolutely zero time telling you exactly what kind of unhinged ride that you're in for. so buckle up. We open on a serene lake. A young, horny teenager and his girlfriend are chilling in a rowboat. Very classic, very 80s. It's a trope as old as the horror genre itself. The guy's fishing, the girl wants to go swimming, the hormones are palpable, and they're just swimming. Suddenly, the boyfriend loses his balance and falls into the water. Or more accurately, he gets dragged under. The girlfriend thinks he's just messing around. She calls out to him. Boyfriend! I forgot his name. Waiting for the classic jump scare where he pops out of the water to grab the boat. That would be so classic, but no! He doesn't come back up. Instead, the water starts to bubble, and then a massive, unnatural geyser of thick red blood erupts from the surface of the lake. Spooky. Okay. Let's pause and think about this for a second, okay? Slugs in a lake, dragging a fully grown man underwater by his feet with the brute strength of a killer whale, pureeing him so violently that a fountain of blood shoots up into the air. Crazy to think about. Immaculate. But does this make any biological or physical sense? Nope. Does not. Do slugs even swim? I don't know. But from my research, I can assure you they do not. But the movie immediately establishes this tone. It tells the audience, we know this premise is stupid, kind of absurd, but we are going to commit to the bit with so much fake blood that you won't even care. And you know what? I don't care, because this movie was awesome. If Slugs is this chaotic and bloody, why isn't it mentioned in the same breath as other great creature features? Why did it rot on the dusty back shelves of a Blockbuster, waiting for weirdos like us to find it? First, look at the competition. The 1980s was an overcrowded, all-you-can-eat buffet of legendary practical effects in horror. You had John Carpenter's The Thing, Cronenberg's The Fly, the gooey perfection of The Blob remake, one of my all-time favorite remakes. Slugs was a low-budget Spanish-American co-production trying to box with the heavyweights. Let's say that, with the heavyweights. Second, it's called Slugs.
Slugs.
You're trying to pitch this to your friend on a Friday night in 1988. Hey guys, do you want to see a movie about the unstoppable dream demon, with razor claws? Or the movie about, the slimy garden things that eat lettuce?
Slugs.
It sounds like a parody. It sounds like a fake movie trailer playing in the background of a better movie. Furthermore, the acting is enthusiastically terrible. And the dubbing is downright distracting.
Before yesterday, the most exciting thing we had around here was a Saturday night drunk getting naked and running down Main Street.
Because the director was Spanish. The cast was a mix of American actors and Spanish actors, phonetically sounding out English lines, which were then awkwardly dubbed over later in post-production. It gives the whole movie this, surreal, disjointed, fever dream quality where nobody seemed to be reacting to the same reality. It was too weird for the mainstream, but back then it hadn't yet marinated long enough, marinating. Now let me tell you why this frickin' movie absolutely rules, alright? Slugs succeeds because it is completely and utterly devoid of restraint. When the slugs attack, the movie turns into a masterclass of gross out body horror. Bit of a spoiler here, but let's talk about the greenhouse scene. A grumpy gardener is tending to his plants, all loving because, he's got that green thumb in him. He puts on his gardening glove, but surprise, there's a mutant slug inside. Oh shit. It bites him. It won't let go. So what is his immediate logical reaction? What would your reaction be? Take off the glove, maybe pour some salt, whatever, try and get it off you. Does he pull off the glove? No. What does it do? Grabs a hatchet and chops his own hand off at the wrist. Oh, but it gets even crazier because in his agonizing panic, he knocks over a bunch of highly flammable gardening chemicals. His wife, hearing the screams from vacuuming, casually walks into the chemical-soaked room, smoking a lit cigarette. The entire house explodes. The slugs didn't even have to do the heavy lifting, man. Humans, the stupidity of these humans and the panic did the job for them. And then there's this legendary restaurant scene. A guy's wife unwittingly chops up a slug that was hiding in a head of lettuce, making him a toxic side salad. The next day, he's at a fancy business lunch trying to close a deal. He starts to sweat. Oh, he's not feeling too good. He gets a nosebleed, and then he collapses onto the table, thrashing in agony, until a horde of parasitic worms literally bursts out of his eyeballs, showering his business partners in ocular gore. It is top tier, unadulterated trash cinema. Yeah. Now, here are some behind-the-scenes fun facts to make you appreciate the madness even more. Real slugs and bad actors. The production actually used thousands of real live slugs on set, but here's the problem with that. Slugs are incredibly slow, and they don't take direction well. During the attack scenes, the live slugs were moving too sluggishly to look threatening. So the crew had to mix in hundreds of fake rubber slugs and use camera tricks to make it look like they're actually swarming the actors. The director is a legend of B-movie trash. If you love unapologetic gore of slugs, you have to check out his 1982 slasher, Pieces. A movie famous for having a plot that makes zero sense, but features a guy assembling a human jigsaw puzzle with a chainsaw. That's why they call it Pieces. Okay, that makes sense. To keep costs down on this movie, the movie was essentially shot in two halves. The exterior shots of the quintessential American town were filmed in Lyons, New York, which almost all of the interior shots, the sewers, the houses, the exploding greenhouse, were filmed on sound stages in Madrid, Spain. I mean, I don't know how that keeps the cost down, but I guess it worked. Now let's get into the final verdict. Let's look at the numbers, shall we? Metal rating, 8 out of 10. Nasty slugs. Any movie that features a man severing his own hand with a hatchet to escape a mollusk, followed immediately by a domestic explosion and an eyeball bursting business lunch, well, it's incredibly metal, okay? So metal. The climax literally involves blowing up a town sewer system in a fiery inferno. It's brutal, it's loud, and it refuses to apologize, and it's absolutely awesome. Disturbing factor, 8 out of 10. Is body horror at its best, I would say. I would say if you have any fears of bugs or little garden parasites, you know, this movie is really gonna tickle that fear of yours. The extreme close-ups of slimy, pulsating bodies wriggling over human skin, sliding in drinks and nesting inside fresh wounds are pure, concentrated nightmare fuel. If you have any aversion to slime or swarming insects, this movie will make your skin crawl. Replay value, it's 7 out of 10. Now, it's not high art, and the pacing drags a little bit when the humans are just standing around talking in this like awkwardly dubbed English voice. But when the creatures are on the screen and the practical effects team gets to show off their talents, well, it is pure 80s gold. It's the perfect movie to put on past midnight with a group of friends and a few strong drinks. Did I say a few? I meant many strong drinks. Slugs proves that you don't need a terrifying monster to make a terrifying movie. You just need enough fake blood to drown a small village and a script that completely ignores the laws of nature. But have you seen this movie? Do you have any recommendations of a movie that we should cover here? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, follow, and as always, stay bloody, stay brutal, and keep it metal.